Well, I will start out by telling you guys that I am not a speaker, but I feel strongly enough about this topic that I'm going to throw myself under the bus and kind of take you guys along for the ride with me and hopefully give you a little bit of good information. My name is Jennifer White. I'm from Andover, Kansas. I tweet as Jen W. Portraits. I tweet about things like my kids, my coffee obsession, photography, and sex trafficking, which, as you might imagine, gains me some pretty interesting followers. So if you follow me, send me a tweet and say, hey, I'm not a weirdo, and I'll follow you back. I do a lot of blocking and deleting. So I also tweet as ICTSOS, and that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. ICTSOS actually started out as a hashtag on Twitter. Back in March of this year, there was an article in the Wichita paper about a 13-year-old girl who was being sold for sex to a 54-year-old man. The article was written by Ron Sylvester, who tweets as R. Sylvester. He's fantastic. If you guys aren't following him, he's so fascinating. He covers all of the court stuff for the paper and live tweets trials and things. And so he had written this article about this trial, and it was a couple of days after the article came out that I actually read it. I had seen people tweet it and retweet it and make comments about it. And so finally I sat down and I read the article, and it chokes me up now. It sucked the air out of my lungs. My oldest daughter is 12, and this little girl in this story was 13. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a nonprofit director. I have no business being in this world, but I jumped in with both feet. And the very first thing I did was to contact our local street outreach program through the Wichita Children's Home. That's who deals with this population in our area. And I went in and I met with them and talked to them a little bit about what they were doing and how I could help and how I could get involved. And the very first thing we did was put together just a really simple donation drive. And I'm telling you, Ron blogged about the fact that his article had turned into this donation drive. And maybe 10 minutes after he hit publish on his blog, my Facebook went crazy, my Twitter went crazy, my email went crazy. Everybody wanted to know, how do we get involved? How do we help with this? And so we actually created the hashtag ICTSOS for people to kind of follow what we were doing as we were leading up to the donation drive. And so then from there, the media outlets picked up on it. Because of relationships that I already had with some of our local TV and radio and newspaper people. And it just really exploded and has kind of grown like wildfire. And we use Facebook and Twitter, and we have a WordPress site, and that's how we keep people engaged with what we're doing as we're growing and moving forward and kind of tackling this issue in our own little way. So Becky asked me to talk a little bit about some ways that you can use social media to fight human trafficking. And one of the first things that I was going to talk about, Cody really kind of covered for me, and that's the internet safety issue with your kids. Obviously, you know, people think this doesn't happen in small towns. People think it doesn't happen in Wichita, but Wichita happens to be one of the top originating cities for this issue, which means this is where kids are coming from when they end up in New York and LA and Vegas and places like that. They're coming from Wichita. So it happens everywhere, and a lot of it happens online. And I'm not going to go into a lot of that because I think it's kind of already been covered, but just make sure you know what your kids are doing, know what they're doing on their smartphones. There's apps on the smartphones that don't sync with their Facebook pages. So some of the information and things that are being put out through their phone apps, you may not see show up on their Facebook pages. So just be aware of those things. And then another preventative thing that we can do is connect with the organizations that are supporting at-risk youth and families. Organizations like Youthville and Big Brothers and Big Sisters and some of these other nonprofit organizations that are starting the fight maybe before it becomes a runaway situation and a problem like that. One of the big things that I have come across in the couple of months that I've been involved in this, that we've really kind of picked up with the social media side of things, is there's not an Amber Alert system for runaway kids. You know, when a child is abducted, they immediately do an Amber Alert and everybody knows about it. So we've really started to use social media for that. It's also a great way to connect parents with some of the organizations that they may not know about, the Exploited Missing Children's Unit, street outreach, different street ministries that are out there. And then the awareness side of things, this is such a hidden issue. It's something that people don't like to talk about, so it's easily kind of kept in dark corners. And so if you can use your Facebook and your Twitter and things like that to spread the awareness, talk about it. It makes it so much harder for it to happen if people are having that conversation and actually getting it out in the open. We actually did a big flash mob this spring. We had about 200 people on a bridge in downtown Wichita that wrote "Stop" on their hands, and we put the video up afterwards and all of that, and I think we had about 1,500 hits on our website after that day. So it really was a good conversation starter. In Wichita, there actually was an organization, or is an organization of professionals that had been meeting and talking about this issue since 2006, but they had no web presence. And so when I started trying to figure out how I could be involved, it was really hard to figure out who to connect with. And so one of the things that we want to do with ICTSOS is to be that liaison between the general public that wants to help but doesn't know how, and these organizations that are on the ground dealing directly with the issue. So we've kind of become a liaison between the two. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and because of our web presence and the fact that it's been easier for people to get connected and learn a little bit more, there's actually starting to be smaller groups that are popping up. El Dorado has a group called the Justice Alliance, which is on Facebook as well. I don't think they're on Twitter yet, but I know they're on Facebook. And then the other thing that you can do is to connect with some of these larger organizations, Polaris Project, ECPAT, Love 146. A lot of those organizations will actually allow you to create a chapter in your town. So if you're in a small town where there's not an organization, connect with those larger groups and figure out how you can duplicate that in your area. And I'm just about out of time, so I want to just kind of wrap this up and say, I know this issue is maybe not everybody's issue, but there's something that you can do, whether it's this, whether it's something else. There's some really great grassroots social good projects out there. Find one. If you haven't found one that you connect with, start one. It's so easy with Facebook and Twitter and all that to get the message out, and that's what I'll leave you with. Go out and do something good with it.